to another episode of Be Free, Be Fun, Be Fearless. I am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki, your host for today and founder of Light Changes Coaching. And today, this beautiful day in 2021, well, it will be by the time this is aired, I am so thrilled. I'm just trajecting myself into that positive mindset to transmit it through the screen to all of you. I am thrilled to be joined by a very, very dear friend of mine, someone who I value and hold very, very highly. Yay! Yewande. Now, Yewande is the founder and CEO of Otito, and she is going to explain to you exactly what that is, because actually it's a beautiful message in there. But she is also previously a management consultant at McKinsey Consultancy and a VP at Morgan Stanley. So she's been in the business field working with leaders and professionals for a long time. I just think she has the most amazing anti-wrinkle cream, because you look at her and you think, how can you possibly have all that experience? But trust me, when you hear her, you will catch on to this phenomenal experience and that this lady has. So what do, Yewande? You help business leaders and high achievers accelerate to their next level of success. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rana. I'm so excited to be here and really, really honored to be on your show. And you're too kind.
It's just my natural self. What can I say? But it's all the truth. It's all the truth. So firstly, tell us a little bit about what you do when you say you help business leaders and high achievers accelerate to their next level of success.
Yeah, so at Otito, where I'm CEO and founder, we really focus on helping leaders and high achievers. And often the people who we work with are people who are sort of similar in terms of background to my background. So it's people, I always say that my clients are successful, they will be successful. They don't need me to be successful. However, they've often reached a point in their careers where something doesn't fit, something's missing. And whatever they've been doing thus far, which will continue to make them successful on paper, doesn't help them reach that next level that they're trying to achieve. And because they are high achievers, they're like, I want to get there now. So I get a buzz out of it. And I also have, obviously have the experience and the sort of background in terms of helping these high achievers and leaders to accelerate and move faster towards that next level. For some people, it's going up the corporate ladder. For some people, it's laterally and up. And for some, it's going completely out. Like I have someone at the moment who's leaving consultancy to start their own film production business, which is completely different, but it's their next level, and that's what we help them do.
Yeah, so their next level doesn't necessarily mean climbing the corporate ladder. It could just mean a transition. So what I'm hearing you say, it's the next level for what's in them, which is potentially then also engaging in their purpose, their passion, and what's going to drive them.
Exactly. I feel like you've seen like the first few steps of my program already, Rana. But you're absolutely right. You know, like we often label leaders, high achievers, success in a very small box, but that next level is very specific to each person. Which I've also experienced within my career. And that's why I know you were asking earlier about kind of where the name Otito came from. So I'm British Nigerian, and in Nigeria, I am part of the Yoruba tribe. And in Yoruba, Otito means truth, integrity, honesty. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really getting honest about what it is they want, who they want to be. And therefore you start to understand, that's my next level, not, my boss's next level for me, or my spouse's next level, or my children and what they need, which all comes into it, but really understanding your next level, and then I help people accelerate towards that.
So I would imagine that can prove quite a challenge for some people to break those ties, especially when they are people of service who want to please, and it can be quite difficult to detach what they truly want and desire versus trying to keep the peace, be it, like you say, with their families, their kids, their partners, and presumably other work colleagues.
Yeah. it is often it's often quite a challenge for people. Firstly, just in terms of changing their perspective, right? And starting to say, I want. And what's really interesting, and this is not the case for everyone, but generally what I find is that there is that idea of service, which becomes really difficult when people go, oh, but I should do this. I'm expected to this. I've already got that success, and I have to keep going. And it becomes really hard to sort of go, actually, me leading myself, which is often why I start with self leadership, to that next level. If I'm able to lead myself, then it becomes so much easier to be of service to other people because I'm coming from a place of purpose, of passion, of clarity. But what I find actually is often a huge sticking point is getting people to deal with their own expectations of themselves. And as you'll know, obviously, as a coach as well, understanding the limiting beliefs and the interpretations that they're assuming other people are putting on them. And when we start to break all of that up, it's like, actually, I thought that person wanted me to do this, but then they actually don't. And then you're kind of living a life that you don't even know where the expectations are coming from. So really honing in on what we want, and helping my clients hone in on what they want and who they want to be is often the first step. It's a tricky step, but it kind of unlocks everything else.
It is sometimes the trickiest step, isn't it? Because it's the usual thing, the first question that you ask. And actually last week I talked to Bridget Simmons about it as well, and I was saying the first chapter in my book is, what do you want? I've got one, telling her, I've got one lady who's taken 6 months to come back to me with a message saying, okay, I got stuck on chapter 1, now I'm back. Because there is often a feeling of guilt associated with that. You almost need to give yourself permission to truly engage, get rid of the boundaries, the barriers, the limiting beliefs of determining what you want and seeking approval, perhaps breaking it down into different categories at the same time. And so often the first thing that we think about is what we don't want rather than what we want.
Exactly. And even a simple exercise like just recognizing what words you're using. So often you're using I want, and people go, "Oh, I didn't realize that." But I love that that's the and I love the fact that your book, the first piece is, what do you want, right? Because people often don't know what they want, or they haven't taken the space and the time to figure it out for lots of different reasons. Fear of success sometimes comes up, right? If I actually know what I want, then I actually have to go get it. But I find that one thing that I often do, which I also do for myself and for clients, is just making people aware of what language they're using. So am I using I want versus I need to, I have to, I should, and really kind of going, do I, like, is this coming from what I want leadership, or is it expectations and just things that I think I have to do? So I love that.
And how would you suggest people get past the guilt factor of I want?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Guilt is a strong emotion that I often see. The work we often do on that is really understanding where that guilt is coming from. And to your point, especially for people who are very come from a place of service, there's often a guilt around other people and what that selfishness, right, in quotes, people think that they're being selfish by saying what they want. A couple of things that we often that I often do is, one, the interpretation's big. So assuming that by saying what you want, you are basically not helping someone else, and really starting to break down, all right, is that true? How true is that? What evidence do you have for that? And getting really detailed. The other thing is around understanding that when we are our most powerful, which includes knowing what we want, we are at a better place to serve other people. So it's flipping it from a place of me getting what I want means that you're not getting what you want. To actually me getting what I want means that I can better serve you and getting what you want, and that service increases.
Exactly. So bringing it up
Yeah.
to that higher level of resonance and effectively speaking that person's language. So if they feel better through
Yeah.
serving people, then okay, well, by having what you want, you'll be able to serve people better. If there's somebody who just thinks about opportunity and purpose, then we talk to them at that level of language. So okay, well, where would the opportunity be here? So again, just resonating with that person as they are, and of course we are each unique, aren't we? So of course it's never a one size fits all, which is where the individual conversations come in so handy, so useful, so necessary, so important.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, just to pick up on something that you said there, which is very much in line with my philosophy, it's I love that you said resonating with that person, because different people, we talk about service as if it's just one thing. Different people serve for different reasons, right? Some people love the problem solving aspect and like really getting into a problem. Some people just love the connection with other people and just having people around them and feeling good when they can help someone else. And you're right, like connecting with, which is also part of wanting, right? Connecting with the thing that you want within that service, even if it's I want to serve this person better so that I feel connected to them and getting and coming from that place of energy, like it makes a huge difference. So yeah, it's all part of knowing who you are and what it is that you want and leading from there as opposed to the opposite, which is just tiring.
Yeah, no, I know that you have some personal experience of this tiring.
A little.
I would love it if you would share that story, because you were someone who had accelerated to the next level of your career. But for you, like we said, that wasn't going up to being a president of McKinsey or VP in McKinsey. It was a transition for you. But for you, that was still an acceleration. So I would love it if you would share with our listeners what that story entailed.
Yeah, of course. I'm more than happy to share. Because yeah, it shows that even within that acceleration, it's not always completely upwards, right? Um, so after leaving Morgan Stanley, I joined McKinsey, which was amazing, right? I had opportunities to work in different countries around the world. I'm British Nigerian. I'd never worked in Nigeria or anywhere in Africa. I got to work across like 6 different countries across East and West Africa, doing lots of projects, working with CTOs, CFOs, CEOs. It was amazing. And with all of that, as you may tell from the speed that I'm talking at, I was exhausted. I burnt out twice, right? And I always say to people, you burn out once. This is my judgment on myself. But I was like, if I burn out once, I should really learn from that. About I would say 7 months after I burnt out again, and it was the same pattern. And part of it was exactly what we talked about, that desire to serve, that desire to solve problems, that desire to like really, really make this thing that everyone was telling me I was great at and I had a future in work, right? The expectations I was putting on myself, the expectations from others, from my team. It's a lot of pressure. And I was exhausted. So, and Rana, you'll know that I'm very structured. So I like to have a plan. And I was so tired. I was like, I'm done. I did what was strangely enough both the scariest and the most sensible thing that I'd ever done in my life, and I just quit. I had no idea what I was going to do next. I think what really helped me was thinking about the worst case scenario, and I realized that what I was most fearful of was being homeless and broke and having no food, and I like food. And once I realized that I could probably survive for a bit, and I had, my time scale for how long, and I had a support system that would help me, that would mean that I wouldn't be in that situation. Um, I was like, yeah, I just have to stop. And my approach, unlike my usual structured approach, was I would do the opposite. Anything and anyone who I connected with, I would lean into that, right? Which now that I reflect back on it, was going through a process of discovering me and discovering what I wanted. I reflected on where I felt like I had the most impact. I practice yoga. I love yoga. So I was like, you know what? I'll go become a certified yoga instructor in Vancouver. Worst case, I'll do that. Why not? Which was an awesome, awesome, awesome summer. And just through reflecting on what I was what I felt I was great at, what my passions were, what my values were, as well as leaning into those opportunities that came up. Like I remember an old friend from university who didn't even really know me well. And off the back of like a 5-minute conversation, she was like, hey, I think you'd be an awesome coach. I'm going through a coaching program. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. That's not a real job. But then I didn't let that limit me. I was like, all right, let me find out what this thing is about. And I ended up realizing 2 things. 1, I love solving problems. 2, I love empowering people to solve their own problems. Before I knew it, I'd incorporated my business. But I say all that to kind of show that it is a journey. The burnout sucked, but it was kind of what led me to where I am now and doing what I absolutely love to do and helping other people who are in situations like that themselves.
Yeah, and of course you are a person of opportunity, purpose, and service. So
Yep.
and all of those words. Tell me a little bit more about what it felt to, because I work with what I call the wantaholics and the workaholics, and the wantaholics are not that different to the workaholics. We have I identify myself because that's definitely where I was. It's always wanting, it's always looking at the next thing, it's always looking upwards, up the ladder. Okay, what can I do next? You just keep going and you keep going. You have very few boundaries. You'll quite happily work at weekends. You won't prioritize your family, your self-care, because you keep thinking that next achievement is going to make you feel good or even better. I mean, it really is like a drug until we burn out. And then it's okay, actually, let's take a step back and realize actually what you want is what you can be, and it's actually what you are. And then you can anything else, but you have to get to that state of being. So I too have experienced several bouts of burnout, so you're not alone. Not alone.
We've got a club.
Yeah, should have woken up, but oh well, make another year. Here we go again, another couple of years, and I'm still guilty of doing it every now and again. I do have to check myself before I get that far. But a lot of people don't understand. They don't see the early signs and only get to the late signs. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what that burnout feels like, both physically and mentally, because I certainly know from my own experience what that did to me mentally in terms of my thought process, how it impacts on our relationships, how it takes its physical toll as well. So tell us a little bit about your experience of burnout.
Yeah, and maybe I'll tell you a bit about my experience kind of from that moment, and then what I've also noticed as I've experienced, kind of reflected on hindsight. In that moment, I would agree. For me, on the surface, there was definitely the physical burnout, and that was pretty obvious, right? I wasn't sleeping well. I was just tired and physically tired. I know that I wasn't eating as much as I should. So just nutrition wise, I wasn't kind of where I was ticking off all the boxes, right? I was waking up doing my 15-minute yoga session. I had my moments where I had my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I was ticking off the boxes, but then was I actually doing the things that energized me? No. Even so much so that I actually hurt my wrist, and literally, and I'm not joking, Rana, for like 18 months, every time I typed, my right wrist would burn. Like it would feel like, I can't believe I didn't go to the doctor for this. It would literally feel like it was burning.
No time for that.
No time, exactly. So all I would do was in our office, in the London office, whenever I was back in London, we had a physio. So I would just go, she would do like acupuncture and stuff. It would feel better. I'd be like, all right, I'm good to go. So I was just like basically Band-Aids, right? So physically I was exhausted. That's one thing. And mentally, it just felt like my brain, there was no space. And it's interesting looking back, because now the signs that I often look for, and I always think about like 6 areas of kind of where we get our energy from. 2 we've already talked about, physical and mental. The other area that comes up is emotional energy, right? And I remember a friend of mine saying to me after the fact, yeah, you're doing much better. I was really worried about saying anything to you during that time because you would snap. I thought I was keeping it in check. I thought I was being really good. And then I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, I'd say something and you would just kind of like react, right? And it makes sense. I didn't have the space to respond. So that spiritual energy also, it also became really hard to connect with what it was that was me, right? I was just doing. So I often that's often a sign for me as well. And then the other two are sort of environmental and social. Social in terms of like how connected I am with other people. When I find that I'm kind of moving away from the people that I want to be close to, that's also a sign. And environmentally, if I'm just not outside in nature, right? I'm deprioritizing all of that stuff, and I'm just always cocooned. So those are a little bit more remote, but I find that the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional are the ones that really, really show up for me, and I often see in clients as well.
Yeah, and I know you use that what we call that core dynamics approach, looking at those energetic influences and what impact they're having in any
Yeah.
what somebody wants to achieve, which is so important. And picking up on a few of those, and I'll perhaps share my experience as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like the you just keep doing, right? Exactly like you said, you just keep doing and you just keep taking on, and there's usually a real lack of boundaries because you want to control, and you want to clone yourself because you know
Yeah.
you can.
Have you sorted out that machine?
Oh, I tell you, boy, did I need to clone myself. Yeah. But actually, because it was almost more effort to try to train somebody up and delegate, so I'll just do it myself. So you take on more and more tasks. So it becomes a self-propagating prophecy, really. You keep on going. You just want to do. You definitely, yet you snap. You perhaps don't spend as much time, say, with your friends and your family, or when you do, you're not really there. Your mind's thinking about other things anyway.
Yeah.
It's away. And I used to travel a lot with lecturing and speaking, and I couldn't be in the moment. I was flying off to Sydney, to Taipei, to China, to India, all over the world, these amazing places and beautiful places in Europe. I was never present. I would sit there, I'd be flown, first class. I mean, might as well got to enjoy the experience. No.
Right?
I mean,
Are you down?
I would be on the plane, and and I would be on my computer 9 hours later, and it's probably the middle of the night. I'd land in New York, land in somewhere, it's California, in the 9-hour flight. And all that had happened was, the flight attendant had brought me food and taken it away, and I thought, oh, I'm here now, and I'd be in these beautiful places, and I wouldn't take a minute to just enjoy.
Yeah, because you got more to do.
There's
more,
more,
you're exhausted.
And there is always more to do. And I would try to just give myself a pat on the back, because like you you became a yoga instructor. I've been a fitness instructor since I've done dental school back in my early 20s. It's going to help pay my way through university at that point. So yeah, I know how to do fitness and run classes, and so I'd be doing it. I know how to meditate, but was I truly meditating? It's like you say, I think you can have that disconnect, can't you, with your spirit? And I think also with that, because obviously I focus a lot on helping to develop people's intuition, their intuitive thought. And I think when you get to that doing phase as well, it becomes very difficult. So you become much more in the ego. You start to seek approval. You're talking about the social aspects. Sometimes I think you stop trusting yourself because you're so busy doing. So you don't tap into those intuitive thinking, and it's then becomes about seeking approval from all the people around you. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing? Yes. Or you push it through with force.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a mess, really.
and do you know what's so interesting about it, actually? Because even as you, and I love hearing you reflect that, because I'm like, oh, I'm saying this in a new way. But even with all of that, the thing we're trying to achieve, which is the more and being our best selves, we're actually not, because we're not connected, we're exhausted, we're not in the moment, right? And it's just like, it's so, on one side, as you said, it's the ego that's pushing us, because it's like, well, if I'm doing it all and I'm ticking the boxes and other people see me doing it, then I'm doing it. And then on the other side, it's like, well, no, right? And you're not performing at your best. You're not yourself. So it's interesting. And then the more you get into it, it just we've talked about I think we talked about the treadmill and just being on the treadmill, and then it becomes harder, right? It's harder to get off because now you're just going at pace. How do you even stop?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's getting to that awareness where you don't get there.
Yeah, I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
what does that mean for you to stop? Because you start attaching to that identity of who you are. That's who you start believing you are. And so if you're not that high achiever with how you see high achievement as being, you know, I'm this amazing, phenomenal, successful, superwoman, which you are still, but you saw yourself, you had a different identity, as it were, and I was the same. You know, how can I still lead? So for me, my biggest transition was finally recognizing, and so I really want to get onto leadership because this is a beautiful flow into that, was finally recognizing that I could still be a leader in my life. I could still be the leader without needing all of that stuff. And for me, that's what then led me on my path to actually sell my practice and to start actually being a bit pickier about my speaking engagements and to reprioritize my life. But for me, you know, we were talking about how it impacts. I mean, yes, you know, I became very much borderline chronic fatigue, you know, and now I know my limits when I push myself too far. But, you know, I was tired, I was foggy headed. My marriage had then broken down by that point, you know, for various other reasons. But you know, and then you start to feel like, okay, maybe life isn't all it's meant to be. And of course, my passion is to stop, you know, you don't have to get to that stage before you can wake up. And recognize that you can be a leader in your life without needing to take this path. So I know you resonate with that, and that's very much what you do and what you help people do. So maybe let's talk about leadership, because leadership doesn't mean somebody who stands at the head of a boardroom and dictate to people what they're going to do. That is not leadership, but it's what a lot of people might think it is. So let's take a deep dive into what leadership is.
Yeah. And I love that segue because I would even go further and to say that when you are coming from a place of choosing what you want, you are being a leader and you are leading well versus I need to do this to achieve. Then something else is leading you, whether it's the ego or someone else. And that's kind of the often the perspective switch that my clients go through. But I always say, for me, leadership is pretty clear. Like my definition now, which is really interesting as I reflect back to what I used to think. Leadership, or the word CEO, VP, I don't know, head of whatever, that is a title and a label. It is not leadership. I believe that every single person in this world, from my 7-year-old niece to whatever, a 100-year-old granny and everyone in between, is a leader. The question is how well you lead. And for me personally, I'll talk about me personally first. When I started to see that, then it was like, and now I'm looking from a place of choice, right? It's not just about I'm a leader when I have the title, or I will be the leader when I have the title, or I am the leader when I have people to follow me, or I'm the leader when I have been assigned people to manage. Like that's irrespective of who I am. I am already a leader because regardless of whether or not we realize it, we're always influencing people around us, and we're always influencing ourselves. Often people aren't conscious of that. So you're sort of leading your life and leading people, in quotes, but you're not actually realizing what you're. So that's why I'll talk about how well we lead, and really coming from that place of how well we lead. And then there are obviously like the mechanics behind it around, like here, like the 5 pillars of leadership and how we go into those details. But really understanding that concept, we come back to what we discussed before in the first chapter of your book, which is like starting with, what do you want, right? Because you can't lead if you don't know what you want. Because what are you leading people to? What are you leading yourself to? Just like aimlessly around. And who you are as a leader, and understanding that you as a leader and how you lead is not based on any book, anyone else. There is something about each of us that is unique about how we lead, and that's quite exciting, right? We are both leaders, Rana, but we lead differently because we have different strengths, different passions, different values. we have different like quirks and things that we do, which just makes it more exciting. We have different people who resonate with us, and it's finding that and then like owning it and moving forward in our leadership. So sorry, I love the whole topic of leadership, so I
Yeah,
could go on and on and on.
and there are different things, aren't there? Because there are skills that you can learn.
Yeah.
There are skills that you can perfect, and there are skills that are inherent to you. Right. So,
Yeah.
being able to kind of get the best out of people, being able to intuit, being able to communicate, all of those, some of them you will have as natural strengths and some of them you can grow. And then, of course, we've got, productivity and delegation and boundaries and bringing and building teams. So talk a little bit about that for me.
The productivity piece.
Well, any of those skills of what when be inherent to us, what we can learn and improve on.
Yeah. So with the and I like that split actually. So the things that are inherent to us, as I said, primarily just have to do with really understanding yourself and understanding what it is that you are put on this earth to do. I remember when I was kind of going through my transition, and it's weird again looking back because I don't even know that's not true. I know where this phrase came from. I was speaking to someone else and they were like, I just want everything that I do to be an expression of who I am. I was like, that's it. That's what I want. And often that's leadership, right? When everything that you're doing is who you are, it just becomes so much easier to lead well. But you're right. There are sort of the more mechanical aspects of leadership that sets us up for success. And I always say that if we're not leading those aspects, then it just makes it so much harder, right? Productivity wise, what I often, in the same way that, and when I kind of look at people leadership, this is kind of part of like the philosophy that I often share with people. In the same way that we are leaders ourselves, and you say, I am a leader and I am becoming more of the leader that I want to be, there's also a recognition that everyone else around you is also a leader, right? And leaders don't only see the potential in themselves, but they see it in others. So when we talk about delegation, for example, sometimes that can feel like, oh, I'm to your point that you said earlier, it's like, oh, now I have to give someone else this thing, but I want to do it because then I can do more. Or, well, if I give it to them, then it's going to just take way too much time for them to do it. Will they do it the way I want to do it? Will they do it the way that I do it? I think there's so much that we can do to teach other people, especially, if we're more experienced in a certain field. But there's also something about recognizing other people's leadership and going, well, I may not do it that way, but there's something that they bring to it, right? I'm creative, but I'm creative probably in a more structured way, right? Maybe more in like innovative problem solving way. But there's some people who are creative visually or through music. And there's so much that they could bring even to a very structured environment that I wouldn't naturally think about because that's not my superpower. That's not my way of leading. So even with delegation, it's like, how do you delegate in a way that you kind of create expectations and boundaries as a leader in terms of what you're trying to achieve in the vision, but then also enabling other people to show their amazingness, which then just creates more amazingness for everyone else.
Exactly, because it propagates, and then we're back to energy, aren't we? That energy rubs. We always talk about, oh, you have a good vibe, and or your energy, it rubs off on me, and that's exactly what happens. So you starting with that foundation, that pillar of light, that who you are, can then you will rub off on other people, and when what you start to notice, the more you stand in who you are, is that sometimes you don't necessarily you start becoming so confident with who you are, you start being surrounded by people who are similar to you, and you don't worry about the approval factor because you're so contented putting out stuff. The quote that you said, what resonated with you, when you realized you were going through your transition, about as long as I show up for who I am and in everything that I do, then you don't worry about who decides not to tag along. It's they'll drop by the wayside and you feel okay about that.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word worry because we spend so much time worrying about X and Y and Z and stuff, and we're just in our heads. And just the freedom, and this is what I actually love about your podcast and like the fun, free, fearless thing. there's just a freedom to just being you and letting other people be themselves, right? And again, there are mechanical skills and sort of best practices that we work on in terms of like leadership, and but it's all, at least for me, it's all about moving to a place where everyone is just like their superpowers are on fire, right? I don't even watch superhero movies, but it's like I imagine like the Avengers, like my team like the Avengers. I've just got like the movie poster up, and it's like you're showing your superpower. You've got maybe more junior people who are also expressing their thing. You've got senior people who are your stakeholders who are also enabling you. And while they're helping you sort of achieve what you want as a leader, right? You're leading them towards that success. You're also empowering them to also lead in terms of their success, right? Because there's abundance in the world. It's just creating that space to understand who we are, what we want, and then putting the practices in place that enables us and gives us that, sets us up for success to create that.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny. That was exactly what I wrote in my journal today when it was, how do you want to show up today? And I was just like, with everything I do, I want to be my authentic self. And then the word that just popped into me was freedom again, because for me, that is your freedom. You just,
Yeah.
it's back to being. It's back to actually, what? Let's just be. And it's like you say, we're not. It's not some wishy-washy thing we're talking about when we're talking about being and consciousness. Is actually very, very grounding. And that's not to say you don't then help with the obvious skills. And I know the same with my programs. It's like, okay, let's concentrate on the who we are, and then let's bring in the obvious skills like the productivity and the time management and the communication, and we can home all that to do the skill building. But
Yeah.
it's a bit like decorating a Christmas tree. You've got to have the tree first before you
I
can
love that.
to make it look so lovely. Do you know what I mean?
I love that image, and you're absolutely right. Absolutely, absolutely right. Yeah, I like that. I might steal that.
You can have it. And what are you
Thank
going to
you.
put at the top of the tree?
Ooh, your North Star
There you go. To guide you. See?
to guide you.
To guide you.
North Stars are awesome. It makes decision making so much easier. If I may share like a really quick story on that,
Do.
I've got a client who's literally just renewed with me. She's one of my favorites. All my clients are my favorites, but she is one of my favorites. And actually, she's the one who's kind of gone from consulting into film production. And during our first like renewal, like our kickoff for renewal, she created her purpose statement, right? And everyone's North Star is slightly different, right? For some people, it's vision, some purpose, some mission. It doesn't really matter. And she created this purpose statement. And she looked at me and she went, "That's it." And I was like, "Even if I told you that that was wrong, you would just be like, whatever." She's like, "Yeah." And this is someone who before everything she would tell me, she'd be like, "What do you think? Does that work? Do you think that works?" Like she would always question. And she was just like, I know that's what I want. And off the back of that decision I had to make about whether or not I stay with that company or not, I'm clear about it. I told them no. I was like, what? She's like, yeah. It was beautiful to see the confidence come out with her. So I definitely put the North Star at the top.
Yeah, which is brilliant. And then, of course, there's the bit. Actually, again, I was talking to Bridget about this last week as well. We were talking about then obviously the need to create the certainty within the uncertainty to help you. This is the fearless piece to help you overcome the fear. So, for like with you wanted, you decided, okay, I quit. But that isn't to say you just walked out just like that. You also created some certainty that you went away, you looked at your bank balance, you knew that so then there was a little bit of a plan in place to overcome the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
create.
The planning is very important. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on. You were saying, yeah, it's very important to create that certainty.
Yeah, definitely. And again, the certainty will differ for different people, right? I don't have a family, like I don't have a spouse, I don't have kids. So I'm in a different, place in life to many other people. But facing, I think the thing with fear is fear is really interesting because we are fearful of the things that are coming in the future, but that future doesn't exist, right? But the fear behind it is very, very real. And for whatever reason, in those, especially in those critical decision moments, focusing on the things that can go wrong, the things that we're fearful of, just create a stronger emotion in us than the things that could go right. So my philosophy and what we often do is look fear right in the face and go, what's the worst thing that could happen? And for me, literally the worst thing was not being able to eat. And then creating, as you said, the plan, right? All right, so if that's the worst thing that could happen, what would need to happen, for me to not be able to eat in 6 months? Well, not only would I not have found a job, but I would have also blown my savings and I would have no family or friends who care about me. How realistic is that? Okay, maybe not realistic, but I don't want to be sleeping on other people's couches. All right, what needs to happen for that? When do I have to start job searching? What? And then when you start to get really concrete about what needs to be done and what I always talk about, not milestones, but almost like gates to check. Go, all right, in 3 months, I will check this. Then you're leading yourself through that plan and avoiding that fearful future that now is not that scary because you're like, well, I've got a plan in place to avoid that worst case scenario.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when we are talking about, wanting you to take that leap of faith, it's we're not just go jump. It's like,
no.
Yeah. So then like your client, no, but she listened to herself, her North Star. But that's not to say, she's then got a plan in place. And obviously, as a leadership coach, you will help people negotiate, navigate that path and land it, accelerate.
Exactly. It's funny because I recently, so I think it was my newsletter last week, and I started it with, or maybe it was my post, I don't know, but I started it with diving into a swimming pool is great, but don't do it without checking how deep the water is first, right? Like I'm saying, be fearless and dive, but just don't like dive at first and not know whether it's a narrow or the shallow or the deep end, right? And it's a similar concept. Be free, have fun, be fearless. That's where the magic is, but also do it in a way that sets you up for success.
Yes, precisely, exactly. So one thing I do with my clients, a little bit like your North Star, is I say whenever we want to do something, whatever our wants are, we attach what I call an opt-in for it. So then
tell me more.
Yeah. So the opt-in stands for the opportunity, the purpose, the tangibility, the intuitive. So what does your gut tell you about it? And your need. What need is it fulfilling? And if you really, I just feel if you really land that opt-in, okay, what is the opportunity in this? What purpose is this fulfilling in me? How tangible is it? Because we got to ground it, right? We got to ground it from being intangible into, okay, no, this can be real. So we end up really believing in it. And of course, trusting your intuition and your instincts to follow through on that, which is part of that holistic or holographic thinking, as we call it. And then what need is it fulfilling in you? Because again, when you really attach to the need that you have, which is part of the values piece, and a little bit more, because needs are the values combined with the emotions that come with it, then you land it. And for me, that's what gives you the opt-in.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's
that one.
It's yeah, I know. Just stealing lots of stuff today, borrowing. But I love that because it is, to your point, right? There's kind of like the intangible and the tangible stuff, right? And we often, again, depending on the person, we sort of lean towards one versus the other. And this just feels so holistic around like really looking at it from so many different angles, but then also being clear about that North Star. And like, I love the intuition piece as well, because we know so much more than we allow ourselves to realize, right? Ooh, that's nice.
But again, it comes to, as you know, when you were burnt out and when I was burnt out, you stopped trusting that because you can't connect to it.
Can't connect. There's no space. There's no time, no space. Just, yeah, a lot of self-doubt coming in as well. when you're trying to please and trying to get expectations, it becomes so much harder. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'm having so much fun, but I know we're starting to run out of time. So I know by the time this airs, as I said, we will be in 2021. Christmas tree has been played. But you've held on to the North Star. So you are launching, you've been in the process of launching a membership and some programs. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I'll tell you about the program first, which I am so psyched about, and I'm really excited to start it in January as well, because I know that there's, at the beginning of the year, people are pumped up about having an awesome year, especially given that 2020 was, well, I'll say was because we're now in 2021, but was a really, really difficult year for so many people, right? And also a huge year of reflection. So I am launching this month what I'm my first program, so first group programs going out of one-on-ones, although I still have my one-on-one programs, called Legacy Level Leadership. And it's a program where we really go through the 5 pillars of leadership, starting with self-leadership, thought leadership, people leadership, leadership performance, and leadership mindset. So it's going through a lot of what we've discussed here, from the North Star to really, really tangible leadership skill sets, much of what I've sort of learned primarily at McKinsey, but also at Morgan Stanley and through the coaching that I've done. And then a lot of the mindset stuff and performance stuff that really, really accelerates people. So it's an intimate group, but I'm really, really excited about it because I think there's a huge need and also a huge desire from so many people to really step up in their leadership and to accelerate to that next level. So yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait.
And you have a Facebook group.
Yes. So as part of, it's not the same, it's slightly different, but one of the big things for me this year was really creating a collective and a community of like-minded people. So what I offer, and there are actually 2 offers that I kind of put out there, which you can kind of take advantage of both as you want. The first is joining the Facebook group, and what it is it's a freebie, but it's an offer where I bring together a whole bunch of leaders as well as high achievers who are trying to achieve a lot of the stuff that we've discussed today. So on a weekly basis, there's a lot of interaction with me. I offer tips, suggestions, do sort of short videos. I know people are busy, so it's like short videos that you can kind of learn around those 5 pillars, as well as the odd workshop, which I'm looking to do on a monthly, maybe bi-monthly basis, depending on need. But it's very, very interactive. So my members come in, they're like, hey, I'd love this resource on X, Y, and Z. I have way too many resources, and I'm always happy to share. And then the other thing that people often pick me up on is consultation. And it could be just 30 minutes with some people, and it's just understanding where are you right now and figuring out where you want to be, and just helping you deep dive on that, and maybe even just think about what the next step is. So both of those are available, and I believe the links are in the details, but I can also share them.
They'll be in the text, but just say what they are as well for those who are just listening rather than as well.
Sure. So the Facebook group is called Next Level Leadership. So the easiest way to connect on that is just to find me, Yewande Faloyin. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Yewande Faloyin on Facebook, but I should have checked that. I am definitely on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there. But
we're connected on person. You are the only Yewande.
I am, right? It was so difficult having a name Yewande growing up in the US and the UK, but now I'm like, this is awesome.
I know, so, well, Rana Al-Falaki, same thing, in London.
It's perfect, right? So if you look for me or you look for Next Level Leadership, then that's a group in Facebook. And then to book a consultation with me, which is complimentary consultation, if you go to my website, so www.otitoconsulting, Otito spelled O-T-I-T-O. So otitoconsulting.com, you'll see right there, work with me, and you can book it today.
Yeah, and the meaning is truth. The meaning is truth. What I wanted to say about the Facebook is of course one of those success habits. If you want to get into those success habits, is to surround yourself with like-minded people and people you want to be like. And that's not to say, notice the word want there again, but that's not to say you want to be them. It's to resonate with them and to pick up on their energy and to learn from them, so that we too can grow.
Yeah, love that. So, I think especially after 2020, where I've heard so many people wanting that collective.
I was just going to say, so you're being able to mix with other, so many other leaders will really help. I interrupted you, Yewande. Sorry, what did you say?
No, that was beautiful. I was just reiterating what you said there. And I think especially after 2020, with so many people feeling connected in a way, but also disconnected and trying to find your people, your tribe. And that's really what we're cultivating within the group. So come join, check it out. It's fun as well. I like to have fun. Join. I love having fun.
Exactly.
It'll be more fun. So do join, Rana.
That's what I bring to the table, as well as I'll bring fun.
Fun, fearlessness, and freedom.
And of course we should say, we are hoping, along with Bridget, to hold our retreat at some point this year. So watch this space, which of course, I mean, all of us the three of us work with leaders, professionals. So again, it's a chance to unite those people, but bring the fun, the freedom, and whatever else you want to, your North Star.
And your North Star. Yeah. Fearlessness. Love it. And I can't wait for that retreat. It's going to be epic, Rana.
If nothing else, the three of us will have the best time ever. But
no. Right?
It will be phenomenal. It's just going to be phenomenal value. Such an amazing experience for anybody who attends. So watch this space.
Yes.
Okay. Brilliant. So Yewande, thank you so much for joining me. I've had a smile on my face for the last hour. I really have. Oh, you are just amazing. I've learned so much. And just grounds us in, and it just reminds us of the message of how important it really is to be ourselves, no matter how many times you hear it in how many different ways. Today we've talked about it in the context of leadership and also business success and accelerating yourself to the next level, but also whatever that means. But, and of course we've touched on self-care and what happens when you stop listening to yourself. So thank you, my darling, for joining.
Thank you so much, Rana. It's been amazing. I've stolen lots off of you as well, so thank you for that.
That's fine.
And it's always a pleasure.
Feel free. I'm always happy to share, as you know.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you again.
So we are out of time. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do hit the subscribe button and notifications so you know when our next episode is up. And do take a look at the text, and those links for Yewande are in there as well. But for now, my 3 words after I say I am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki: be free, be fun, be fearless. Bye-bye. Feel on top of the world with Light Changes Coaching. Do you feel like burying your head in the sand, hoping it will all be fine when you come out? Do you know what you want, but no idea how to get it? Are you stuck on the treadmill, repeating the same old patterns, wishing the answers would just be there for you? How great would it feel to have those answers right there in the palm of your hand? Or did you know that there is a way to get immediate answers, fast resolution of inner problems, and quick access to a higher state of awareness? After 20 years of helping people, I have perfected a special technique that allows you to tap into your intuition. Connect with your intuition in just 5 minutes a day using this special technique, Dr. Rana's gift technique, the guided intuition and fulfillment training, and you can have those light bulb moments every day. So get what you want, a job that gets you excited when you get up in the morning, a relationship where you can look across the table and think how much you love that person, a body that you're proud to have and look in the mirror and absolutely love, a bank balance that you're not afraid to look at. My gift to you is simple, quick technique to access your intuition and give you the instant answers you need to get unstuck without having to do lengthy meditations. So head on over right now to lightchangescoaching.com.